Hi everyone, it's Peyton, and I decided to do my 8th vlog discussion on the pernicious rise of Poptimism by Saul Austerlitz. Throughout the article, the author talks a lot about how music criticism has really begun to got kind of weird because we've transitioned from this really cultural era of music to popular culture. The author talks about Poptimism being the reigning style of music criticism and studied reaction to the musical past. So a lot of what the author talks about has to do with how critics, particularly music critics, really base their opinions on pop music to past music. For example, he talks about how if you don't like current pop music or artists, you may be considered old or to have older music taste just because you're not in with what's new and things that are on the top 100 charts and popular culture. Some really kind of doubling sides, some fighting sides that he really talked about were kind of like the concepts of disco is in and punk is out, and how pop is in and how rock is out, and how synthesizers are in and guitars are out, and how music videos are in and how live shows are kind of out. So if you think about pop culture, I remember kind of growing up, I guess in more of my early high school, middle school era, I remember a lot of popularity surrounding music videos and how a lot of people put emphasis on music videos. And I can kind of see how the author is pointing out how people really used to critique an artist by their live performance and their live shows, and now it's kind of more about their music videos and how they portray their music through that. Another big controversy that's kind of surrounding this music critics and Poptimism is this ideology to counteract rockism. People are starting to reminisce about a time when artists had something to say through their music, had something to move throughout their music, had a message, and that they meant it and they used it to create cultural change, whereas music now, especially pop music, is just more about popular culture. Poptimism has also created sort of a reaction to music where musical critics can be seen as extremely controversial, because if a music critic comes out and says that they don't like Beyonce in this time and age, you're going to get yelled at. Or if you don't like Taylor Swift, you're going to get yelled at, and it becomes really emotionally charged because of this pop culture and this idea of Poptimism. And a lot of people who bash on hip hop, the author talked about how they are even seen as racist due to the fact that they don't really appreciate hip-hop music. The author also really emphasizes the role of a critic, to where a critic's job is to argue and plead for underappreciated things, as well as not just cheering on for winners. So as a musical critic, you need to be able to really find some underappreciated artists and explain to consumers why it's important and why some of the things that may be super mainstream, why something underappreciated is just as good as this mainstream item, or better than that mainstream item. Another thing that the author touches on, I guess kind of more ethically for musical critics, is that they can't sacrifice honesty, curiosity, diligence, or pluralism in the name of what he calls an artificial consensus. So he just really wants to push this message out that being a musical critic is about being honest with yourself, and it's a very human thing to be a critic, and of especially popular culture, for things like movies, books, songs. You have to really be in tune with yourself and realize that you have to be honest to yourself, and you have to be honest to your consumers, and not just push out and value things that are super mainstream. You have to really, your job as a critic is to be able to fish and find those things that are underappreciated and really dive into what a critic is. So my main takeaway from this article had a lot to do with how popular culture has really moved the idea of critics, and especially music critics, and thinking about how music used to mean something, and I think it still does. I think music means a lot to people, and especially to me. I think about how I really appreciate how my parents raised me on some of the music that they grew up with, and I really think that music is very powerful and it can bring a lot of cultural change. But I do really appreciate when music critics are honest and when they really bring out the best, and I do appreciate coverage on things that aren't really mainstream. And I think that's a big thing right now, is not just latching on to popular culture and things that are mainstream. It is about finding individualism within what you're criticizing and finding this unique, different thing that you can push out, because it's our job as consumers, not only as critics, to be honest with ourselves and to be curious about a piece of music or a film or anything like that. And yeah, thank you.